You may proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our policy committee meeting this evening. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes, and that was from our January 5th meeting, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve? Diana, thank you. A second, Godfrey, great. All in favor? Perfect. So moved. Thank you so much. Next item on our agenda is the discussion of initiative with Shipment and Goodwin Policy Services. I'll have Dr. Costanzo jump in a moment, but I just kind of wanted to give you a background why we're deciding to continue to use Shipment and Goodwin. Back school year, I believe 2017 to 18, we did a policy audit with CABE, and we had several dozen policies that we needed to either revise or redo or have brand new policies. So that was quite successful, and that took quite a bit of time to kind of sort through and digest all of those policies and all of those revisions. So it was definitely well needed. We had some policies, I believe, were back from the 1980s. So it was something that we really needed to kind of hone in on and look at and figure out what our next steps were. And I think we did that as a policy committee and as a board very successfully. So now we're in 2021, and we thought, you know what, it's time that we relook at some of these policies again. And we knew when we initially did the audit that at some point we'd have to take a look again at some of our policies to see if we're up to date, we're in compliance, and we wanted to make sure that all of that was taken care of. So we have used Shipment and Goodwin for many years now, and they've also helped us on some of our policies. So we thought, you know, still using CABE as well, but as far as our audit, we definitely would like to take advantage and having kind of a legal mind and a legal background using Shipment and Goodwin. So that's where we are now. At some point, Dr. Costanzo and I are going to look at some of our series, some of our policies, and figure out the most urgent ones that we need to look at, have a discussion again with Shipment and Goodwin, and figure out our next steps as far as our policy is concerned, or many of our policies. So that's where we are now. Frank, do you want to jump in at all, and anything I might have missed or any more discussion on it?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Heidi has covered a lot of the items that I wanted to discuss. A couple of additional points worth looking at. Shipment and Goodwin, when they described what this service would provide us, stated that there would be basically an annual review of the policy manual. Wouldn't be the entire policy manual, but they would be able to review different policies depending upon what we would be looking for them specifically to concentrate on. So that would happen on an as-needed basis annually. And the other point I think that's worth talking about is that Shipment, their policy, they basically have a policy division. When the legislature enacts all of its new state statutes on an annual basis, Shipment and Goodwin goes into their policy archive and they do an update, a red line update of every policy that they recommend to school districts based upon the new laws that the state has passed, which I think is a really good component to this service that we would be picking up essentially. So this is a service that would be really helpful to us. One of the things that Shipment and Goodwin explained to Heidi and myself on the call is that they have a slightly different focus on policy than the CABE organization, which is something we would continue to utilize, and we benefit a great deal from the CABE services. Shipment focuses on really sticking to the law and more of a minimalist policy approach. So they're not looking to overwhelm people with policy language or unnecessary policy language or policies in general. They're just looking to make sure that we're in total compliance with all current state statutes and are not really going above and beyond that. And then The other really good reason to consider the Shipment and Goodwin policy services is we work with Shipment and Goodwin so frequently on a daily basis, as we get into operational issues, personnel issues, student issues, that it just makes good sense to have our policy designers and advisors working with us when they're providing us with policy direction and the procedures or the regulations that accompany what those policies are. So since they have such involvement in our daily operations and they're advising us on the school district matters, it just makes good sense for them to be supporting us in this service area. I think we'll find less of a disconnect when we look at what we're doing on a regular basis in the schools and our policies if we have our attorneys supporting us in this additional way, which is through policy guidance, basically. So those are the only additional points. We didn't talk a lot about cost, but it's a very reasonable fee to provide this service. And once we have gone ahead and added this service to our policy initiative, they would provide us with a bundle of their recommended policies from the last legislative cycle. We would still get that. And then it would be renewed on an annual basis. And the renewal fee is like less than $1,000 per year to have the service. I believe the initial cost to membership is $3,000 or $3,500, somewhere in that neighborhood. So very reasonable costs associated with going with the service. And so, I would, I think it is a good next step for the policy committee.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Costanzo. I mean, that pretty much was our conversation with Shipment and Goodwin. As I mentioned before, we've used them over time for some of our policies. We've also utilized them with some of our other committees as well, and overall with the Board of Education. So we definitely, as Frank had mentioned, we have that relationship with them. I think they know Norwalk very well. We will continue to use K, but we thought specifically for this audit and some of the work that we're going to be doing with policy, that it would be important to have that legal service also assist us as we continue to move forward with our policies. And, as I mentioned earlier, when we did the original audit for the 2017-18, there were a lot of surprises that came up. So we knew how important it was to really kind of delve into these policies, since many of them, were first enacted back in the 80s, and some hadn't been looked at for many, many years. So it's important for us as a policy committee to keep this going, and to, even though we pass a policy, it's not forgotten. At some point we need to revisit, and we actually have to look at it again, depending on the policy. So it's really, as you all know, being on the policy committee, it's kind of on an ongoing basis. So is there any discussion at all, Godfrey or Diana or Frank, or anything that you want to add in about this?
No, it's pretty straightforward to me.
Okay. Diana, did you want to add anything, or are you good on this?
No, I'm good on this, and I'm very comfortable with them. So this is
good. Perfect. Okay. We had a feeling, but we wanted to make sure that we presented it tonight, and some of our findings and some of our thoughts, and then we wanted to move forward on, continuing that relationship with them, and then moving forward on an audit. And then, as Frank and I discussed, kind of looking at each series and figuring out the most pressing needs as far as policies are concerned. Frank, did you want to add anything at all?
No, only that it appears that you and Diana are signed on in the same location.
I don't think Frank was on when we were talking about that. We're both in our kitchen, same color, yeah.
Godfrey's not far behind, right? Kind of the pale color in the back. You just need some pictures up, and then you're good.
I'm slowly getting there. I'm edging up my decor.
It's the prime coat.
Too funny. I think, Diana, next time we need the blue background like Frank, so we might try to
Yes.
switch it up. We'll see.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll see how that goes. Well, this is good. All right, so we will move on then. Next item on our agenda is public comments, and I believe, Frank, I double checked with Maura. I don't believe there are any public comments for this evening.
No public comments for tonight.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, that was probably the quickest policy meeting I think I can recall ever having. So, but all good though. We needed to discuss this tonight, which we did, and then our next policy committee meeting, hopefully we'll have some information on the series that we'll be working on. So those are our next steps for our next meeting. Awesome.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
All right.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Me.
Second? All in favor? Awesome.
Aye.
So moved. Great. I'll see you guys
Okay.
another hour and a half.
Hour
or
and a
so.
half. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
See you shortly.
See you
Thanks.
soon.
Have a great night.
Bye. You
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye.